the 8th, or the junior senator from the 8th?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Today, February the 5th, is the 27th anniversary of the signing of landmark and bipartisan legislation, the Family and Medical Leave Act. This federal legislation acknowledged the reality that working people are also caregivers. It was born of the recognition that having a child or a sick family member shouldn't cost your job or your own health insurance. But it wasn't enough and only provides for unpaid leave. In West Virginia, unpaid leave under FMLA is inaccessible to 61% of workers, either because they aren't eligible for it or they can't afford to take unpaid time off. In West Virginia, there is a 9 percentage point gap in labor force participation between men and women, in part because the United States lacks family-friendly policies. Nationally, if women participated in the U.S. labor force at the same rates as women in countries with paid leave, our economy would benefit from more than $500 billion in additional economic activity each year. Mr. President, we talk a lot about workforce development and the lack of workforce participation, as well we should. I submit that paid family leave is one of the many solutions that we can as a state to address this particular problem. Stability in the workplace, knowing that you won't lose your job, pay, or benefits as a consequence of caregiving, creates a happy worker, a dedicated worker, and a happy and dedicated worker makes for a productive worker. In this state, 1/3 of all children are raised by single parents. As a consequence, those parents may not work or may not be able to leave a job to care for a young child. And there is loads of scientific information and journals that suggest and prove that the bond between mother and child, father and child at the very beginning of life is important to their ultimate outcomes in education and productivity. That's why over the last 2 years of my service in this body, I've introduced paid family leave legislation, self-funded by the employee and the employer and administered by the state. I'm heartened by similar legislation in the House, introduced that only applies to public employees. And in my home county of Kanawha, wherein the Kanawha County Commission put into effect paid family leave policies for its employees. It's sound policy. It's good policy. It addresses the reality of today's workforce. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks?